The lights in the Grand Council chamber flickered with an eerie red glow. 12 species had gathered here today, and every single one of them looked afraid. Commander Hyun-woo stood at the human delegation table, his uniform pressed and clean, but his face showed the exhaustion of 3 sleepless days. Beside him, Dr. Yuna kept reviewing data on her tablet, her fingers shaking slightly. Ambassador Taeyong sat perfectly still, his eyes watching every alien representative with careful attention. The chamber itself was enormous. Built to accommodate species of all shapes and sizes, it stretched upward into a dome that displayed the galaxy in real time. Right now, that display showed something terrible. A massive red cloud was spreading across the outer rim, consuming everything in its path. The Void Swarm had awakened. The Valkyrie representative stood first. His species were the strongest military power in the galaxy, tall and covered in silver scales that caught the light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through every translator in the room. The projections are clear. The swarm will reach the core systems within 2 standard years. We cannot stop them. We can only save who we can save. A murmur ran through the gathered aliens. Some nodded. Others looked down at their tables. Hyun-woo felt his jaw tighten. Dr. Yuna stood up slowly. She was young for a chief scientist, barely 30 years old, but she had studied the Void Swarm more than anyone in the galaxy. With respect, we haven't tried to stop them. We've only run projections. My research shows that the swarm has a weakness. Their hive structure depends on coordination nodes. These originated from the Pi. We haven't tried to stop them. If we can identify and destroy those nodes, we can break their formations. The Valkyrie representative didn't even look at her. 3 civilizations have already fallen. The Cortesh had warships that could crack planets. The swarm consumed them in 6 days. The mathematical reality is simple. We fight, we die, we retreat, we survive. Ambassador Taeyong stood now, his voice calm but firm. And what happens when you run out of places to retreat to? The swarm doesn't stop. They don't negotiate. They consume. If we don't make a stand somewhere, there won't be anywhere left to run. Another alien spoke up. This one from the Talveri delegation. Their species looked almost like living crystal, refracting light in beautiful patterns. The human colonies lie directly in the swarm's path. Of course you want us to fight. You want us to die. Protecting your worlds. Hyun-woo stepped forward. He had fought in 3 wars before joining the diplomatic corps. He knew what battle looked like, smelled like, felt like. You're right. Earth and our colonies are in the path. That means we'll be fighting whether you help us or not. But think about what you're saying. You're going to abandon entire sectors because the fight looks hard. How does that make you any different from the swarm? They consume everything. You're just letting them do it. The chamber erupted in angry chittering, clicking, and translated shouting. The various species didn't like being compared to the enemy. But Hyun-woo didn't back down. He stood there, meeting their eyes. All of them. The council leader called for order. She was from the eldest species, the Morphians, who had been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. Her voice was tired. We will vote. All in favor of a coordinated military response against the Void Swarm, indicate now. 1 light appeared on the display. The human delegation. Just 1 light. Out of 12. All in favor of strategic withdrawal and colony evacuation, indicate now. 11 lights appeared. Everyone except humanity. The chamber fell silent. Dr. Yuna sat down slowly, her face pale. Ambassador Taeyong closed his eyes for a moment. Hyun-woo just stared at the display, watching those 11 lights, memorizing which species had chosen to run. The Valkyrie representative spoke again. The vote is clear. All outer colonies will be evacuated. We will establish defensive positions at the galactic core. Refugee ships will be provided for human populations who wish to evacuate. No. Hyunwoo's voice cut through the chamber. We won't be evacuating. Commander, be reasonable. Your species cannot fight the swarm alone. Maybe not. But we're going to try. The Morphean Council leader looked at him with something that might have been respect or might have been pity. Humanity has always been stubborn. But stubbornness cannot stop what is coming. Please. Reconsider. Save. Your people. Ambassador Taeyang stood one final time. Our people will be saved by fighting, not by running. We came to this council because we believed in unity. We believed that the great civilizations of the galaxy would stand together against extinction. We were wrong. You've made your choice. Now we'll make ours. The three humans gathered their materials and walked toward the exit. Behind them, the aliens said nothing. What was there to say? The humans were going to die. And everyone knew it. As they walked through the corridors of Concordia Prime Station, Dr. Yuna finally spoke. They're probably right, you know. We can't beat the swarm alone. The numbers don't work. Hyunwoo kept walking. Numbers aren't everything. We'll find a way. After. 2-3. 2-3. And if we don't, then we die fighting. I can live with that. Can you live with running? Can you live with running? Dr. Yuna thought about that for a long moment. They reached their ship, a small diplomatic vessel called the Defiant. Fitting name, Hyunwoo thought. In the command chair, Hyunwoo activated the long-range communication system. It would take hours for the message to reach Earth, but it needed to be sent now. He took a deep breath and began recording. This is Commander Hyunwoo, reporting from Concordia Prime. The Galactic Council has voted to abandon the outer sectors. They will not be sending military aid. They will not be mounting a defense. Every alien civilization has chosen to retreat to the core systems. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Humanity stands alone. The Void Swarm is coming, and no one is going to help us stop it. High Command needs to begin full mobilization immediately. We have approximately 18 months before the swarm reaches our territory. He stopped the recording, then started it again. Personal message. To anyone listening, I know this sounds bad. I know we're outnumbered and outgunned. I know the entire galaxy thinks we're going to lose. Maybe they're right. But I've seen what humans can do when our backs are against the wall. I've seen us accomplish impossible things because we were too stubborn to accept reality. If no one else will fight, then we fight alone. That's what we do. That's who we are. Hyunwoo out. The message transmitted. The three humans sat in silence as their ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the council station behind. Behind them, in the empty council chamber, the display still showed the void swarm spreading across the galaxy. And directly in its path, one small blue planet called Earth. The message reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. Within an hour, every government on the planet had received the full report. Within 2 hours, emergency sessions were being called in every capital. Within 3 hours, the news had leaked to the public. Admiral Jiwon stood in the command center of the United Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the feeds from around the world. Panic was spreading. Stock markets were crashing. People were flooding the streets, some demanding evacuation ships, others demanding immediate military action. She was 63 years old and had served in the Earth Defense Fleet for 40 years. She had never seen anything like this. Her aide, Captain Minho, approached with another data pad. He was young, only 28, but he had one of the sharpest tactical minds she had ever encountered. Admiral, the President wants to address the planet in 1 hour. He's asking for your recommendation. Jiwon looked at the chaos on the screens. My recommendation? Tell them the truth. Tell them we're going to fight. Tell them. Can we win? Probably not. But that's never stopped us before. In a laboratory complex on Mars, engineer Unji was already working. She had pulled every file on the void swarm that Dr. Yuna had sent from the council station. The swarm ships were biological, grown rather than built. They were tough, adaptive, and incredibly numerous. Conventional weapons barely scratched them, but Unji had an idea. Human fusion reactors produced enormous amounts of energy. If she could weaponize that energy, focus it into a directed beam, it might be able to burn through the swarm's organic armor. It was theoretical. It was dangerous. It might not work at all. But it was something. Her assistant looked over her shoulder at the calculations. How long to build a prototype? 3 months if we work around the clock. 6 months to produce enough for the whole fleet. The swarm will be here in 18 months. Unji smiled grimly. Then we better work fast. On Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul, Private Do-hyun watched the president's address with his family. His mother was crying. His father sat stone-faced. His little sister kept asking questions he didn't know how to answer. The president appeared on every screen across the planet. He looked tired, but determined. My fellow humans, by now you have all heard the news. The Galactic Council has abandoned us. They have chosen to retreat rather than fight. They have left humanity to face the void swarm alone. He paused, letting that sink in. But I want to remind you of something. We have always faced our challenges alone. When we left Earth to explore the stars, the other species laughed at our primitive ships. When we established our first colonies, they said we would fail. When we joined the Galactic Council, they said we didn't belong. We've never had it easy. We've never been given anything. We've always had to fight for what we have. The president's voice grew stronger. So yes, we stand alone. And yes, the odds are against us. But we are human. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We fight. Starting today, every shipyard, every factory, every research facility will be converted to war production. Every able-bodied person who wants to serve will be welcomed into the defense forces. We will mobilize like never before. We will innovate like never before. And we will show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. We. Do-hyun stood up. His mother grabbed his hand. No. Please. No. Mom, I have to. You heard him. Everyone has to help. You're only 19. I'm old enough to fight. He hugged her tight. I'll be okay. I promise. Across Earth, Mars, the lunar colonies, and every human settlement in space, the same scene repeated itself millions of times. Young people saying goodbye. Families crying, but also people standing up, rolling up their sleeves, and getting ready to work. Admiral Ji-won watched the recruitment numbers pour in. They were overwhelming. Every recruitment center had lines stretching for blocks. The Defense Fleet's personnel had tripled in just the first day. She turned to Captain Minho. Get me our best tactical officers. We need to start training these people immediately. Yes, Admiral. I've also been working on something. Minho brought up a holographic display showing ship movements. The swarm fights in massive formations. They overwhelm through numbers. Traditional fleet tactics won't work against them. So what do you propose? Guerrilla warfare. In space. Small groups of ships hitting fast and hard, then retreating before the swarm can respond. We use their numbers against them. Make them too big to maneuver effectively. Ji-won studied the display. It was risky. It went against every established rule of fleet combat. It might be exactly what they needed. Develop it further. I want training protocols ready in 2 weeks. Dr. Yuna had returned to Earth and immediately set up a research lab. She had over 100 scientists working around the clock, studying every piece of data they had on the swarm. And she had found something. She burst into Admiral Ji-won's office without knocking. I know how to hurt them. Ji-won looked up from a mountain of reports. Show me. Yuna pulled up a holographic image of a swarm ship. The swarm operates as a hive mind. Every ship is connected to coordination nodes. These nodes, here, here, and here. She pointed to specific locations on the ship. They're more heavily armored than the rest of the ship, which means they're important. If we target these nodes specifically, we can disrupt their coordination. A swarm ship without coordination is just a dumb animal. How do we target them? They're small, they're protected, and we'll be in the middle of a battle. We need precision weapons. And we need people brave enough to get close. Jiwan thought about that. I know just the person. Major Salmon sat in the briefing room with 50 other fighter pilots. She had been flying combat missions for 8 years and had more confirmed kills than anyone in the fleet. When Admiral Jiwan explained the mission, she didn't hesitate. You want us to fly into the middle of the swarm formations and hit specific targets the size of a shuttlecraft while being shot at by thousands of enemy ships? Yes. Salmon looked around at her fellow pilots. They were all scared. They were all excited. They all knew they probably wouldn't survive this war. When do we start training? Today. The months passed quickly. Every day brought new developments. Engineer Yunji completed her prototype weapon. The test firing burned through 6 meters of reinforced titanium. It was perfect. They immediately began production. Captain Minho's guerrilla tactics were tested in simulation after simulation. The casualty rates were high, but they were better than traditional tactics. The entire fleet began retraining. Major Salmon's squadron practiced precision strikes until they could hit a target the size of a person from 5 kilometers away while traveling at combat speed. It wasn't enough. They practiced more. Private Do-hyun completed basic training and was assigned to the Marines. His unit specialized in boarding actions. When someone asked why they needed boarding specialists to fight a space enemy, the instructor smiled. Because someone needs to plant explosives on those coordination nodes from the inside. That someone is you. Do-hyun swallowed hard. Yes, sir. 18 months had seemed like a long time. But when you were preparing to fight for your species' survival, it went by in a blur. Soon it was down to weeks. Then, days. Then the sensors picked up the first swarm scouts entering human territory. Admiral Ji-won stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable. Around her, 200 human warships hung in space. Behind them, Earth glowed blue and beautiful. In front of them, the dark of space waited. Captain Minho stood at the tactical station. Enemy fleet detected. Approximately 5,000 ships. They're heading for New Horizon Colony. Ji-won had known this moment was coming for 18 months. She had prepared for it, planned for it, dreaded it. But now that it was here, she felt strangely calm. The communication officer looked up. Admiral, incoming message from the colony. They're asking if we're really going to fight. Tell them yes. Tell them humanity doesn't run. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. When they emerged, New Horizon system was already under attack. Swarm ships, thousands of them, filled the space around the colony. They were organic and horrible, like massive insects made of chitin and malice. Admiral Jiwan took a deep breath. All ships, engage the enemy. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone we love. Make them pay for every meter. The human fleet charged forward into impossible odds. The Battle of New Horizon had begun. The battle began like a storm. The human fleet spread out in the attack formation that Captain Minho had designed. Small groups of ships, moving fast, hitting hard. The swarm responded like they always did, with overwhelming numbers and mindless aggression. Major Salmon's fighter squadron screamed through the chaos. Her cockpit shook with every near miss. And there were hundreds of near misses. The swarm ships fired biological projectiles that tracked targets like living things. Gold Squadron. Target the coordination node on the lead ship. Attack pattern. Theta. Her squadron was 12 fighters. They had practiced this maneuver 1,000 times. They dove toward the massive swarm ship, weaving between enemy fire. Samin's targeting computer locked onto the node. She fired her missiles and pulled up hard. The missiles struck home, and the swarm ship suddenly stopped moving in coordination with the others. It drifted, confused, firing randomly. That's one. Samin checked her tactical display. There were thousands more. Next target. Coordinates incoming. On the Indomitable, Admiral Jiwan watched the battle unfold. The human ships were holding their own, but barely. For every swarm ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Casualties? Captain Minho's voice was tight. 16 ships destroyed, 23 heavily damaged. We're losing them faster than projected. And the swarm? We've destroyed approximately 300 enemy ships. It's not enough. Jiwan knew it wasn't enough. She had always known it wouldn't be enough. But they had to try. Deploy the Nova cannons. Engineer Yunji's new weapons were mounted on the largest ships in the fleet. They required enormous power, which meant the ships had to drop their shields to fire. It was a terrible trade-off. But when they fired, they were devastating. The first Nova cannon lit up space like a newborn star. The beam of concentrated fusion energy lanced across the battlefield and struck a swarm hive ship. The organic armor burned and bubbled and finally exploded. The ship broke apart, taking dozens of smaller swarm craft with it. Target destroyed, Minho reported. But the ship that fired is now vulnerable. I know. Keep firing. Private Do-hyun and his marine unit waited in the belly of a assault transport. Around him, 40 other Marines sat in silence. They all knew what was coming. Their mission was simple and suicidal. Board a swarm ship, fight through whatever was inside, plant explosives on the coordination node, and get out before the ship exploded. The transport pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. 30 seconds to insertion. May God go with you. Do-hyun checked his rifle one more time. Next to him, Corporal Junho looked remarkably calm. He was a veteran, older than most of the unit. First time? Junho asked. First time boarding. I've done ground combat before. This is different. Inside those ships, it's like a nightmare. Dark, hot, and full of things that want to kill you. Stay close to me. Follow orders. You might survive. The transport slammed into the side of the swarm ship. Cutting torches activated, burning through the organic hull. Alarms screamed. Then the seal broke, and they were in. The interior of the swarm ship was exactly as Junho had described. Dark, humid, and alive. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. The air smelled like rot and ammonia, and everywhere there were swarm drones. They looked like insects the size of dogs, with too many legs and mandibles that could cut through armor. They swarmed forward immediately. Fire. Junho's order was unnecessary. Everyone was already shooting. The battle inside the ship was close and brutal. The Marines advanced meter by meter, their rifles lighting up the darkness with muzzle flashes. Do-hyun shot a drone that got too close. Then another. His armor took a hit that cracked his visor. He kept moving. They reached the coordination node after 10 minutes that felt like 10 hours. It was a pulsing mass of organic technology, glowing with a sickly green light. The demolitions expert planted the charges while the rest of the unit held the perimeter. Charges set. They ran. Through the corridors they had just fought through. Past the bodies of drones and Marines. Back toward the entry point. 20 seconds. The transport was still there, waiting. 10 seconds. They piled inside. 5 seconds. The transport detached and fired its engines. The swarm ship exploded behind them. The shockwave caught the transport and sent it spinning. But they were clear. They had survived. Do-hyun lay on the deck, breathing hard, bleeding from a dozen small wounds. Junho helped him sit up. Good work, kid. Now we do it again. Again? There's a lot of ships out here. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Jiwan was making impossible decisions. They had been fighting for 6 hours. The human fleet was down to 120 ships. The colony was holding, but the swarm kept coming. Dr. Yuna's voice came over the communication system. She was on the colony, coordinating the research teams. Admiral, I'm seeing something. When we destroy the coordination nodes, the swarm ships in that area lose cohesion. But it's temporary. After about 10 minutes, they reconnect to another node. We need to destroy multiple nodes simultaneously. How many? At least 20 at once to cause a cascade failure in this sector. Ji-Wan looked at her tactical display. 20 precision strikes, all at the same time. It would require perfect timing and incredible skill, and it would leave those ships vulnerable to counterattack. Captain Minho, can we do it? Minho ran the calculations. Theoretically, yes. Practically, we'll lose most of the ships involved in the strike. Do it anyway. If it works, it might turn the battle. The order went out. 20 ships, including Major Salmon's fighter carrier, moved into position. The timing had to be perfect. They would strike on Minho's mark. Salmon and her squadron prepared for their most difficult mission yet. They would have one shot at this. Just one. She thought about her family, back on Earth, her parents, who had begged her not to join the military, her younger brother, who looked up to her. She might never see them again. Gold Squadron, this is Gold Leader. It's been an honor flying with you. On my mark, we strike. She armed her weapons. 3, 2, 1. Mark. 20 fighters, 20 assault teams, 20 precise strikes all happened in the same 5-second window. 20 coordination nodes exploded, and across the battlefield, hundreds of swarm ships suddenly went dark. They drifted, disconnected, unable to coordinate with the hive. It worked. Minho's voice was filled with disbelief. Admiral, it actually worked. The remaining human ships pressed the advantage. They tore through the confused swarm forces, destroying ships that couldn't defend themselves properly. But the victory came at a cost. Of the 20 ships that made the coordinated strike, only 6 survived. Major Salmon's fighter carrier took a direct hit. She managed to evacuate most of her squadron before the ship broke apart, but dozens of crew died. She floated in space in her fighter, watching the carrier that had been her home for 5 years drift away in pieces. Around her, the battle continued. But they were winning. Now. Slowly. Painfully. But winning. 8 hours after the battle began, the last swarm ship was destroyed. The human fleet, or what was left of it, held the field. New Horizon was saved. Admiral Ji-Wan stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at the casualty reports. 84 ships destroyed. Thousands of crew dead. Major Salmon's carrier, gone. Private Do-Hyun's unit had suffered 50% casualties. The victory was real, but it was written in blood. Captain Minho approached quietly. Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up something. More swarm? Yes. 3 more fleets. Larger than this one. They're converging on our territory. They'll be here within 2 months. Ji-Wan closed her eyes. They had won this battle. But the war was just beginning. And they were already running out of ships, running out of people, running out of time. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we need reinforcements. Every ship they can spare. Every person willing to fight. She looked out at the stars, at the vast darkness that hid the enemy, and tell them we're not giving up. Not today, not ever. The Battle of New Horizon was over. The survivors began the long work of recovery, repair, and preparation, because they all knew the same thing. The swarm was coming again, and next time, there would be more of them. The next 3 months were a nightmare of constant fighting. The swarm came in waves, and humanity met them at every turn. They fought at the Titan refueling station. They fought in the asteroid fields of New Beijing. They fought in empty space between colonies, buying time with blood and steel. Private Do-hyun's unit had been reduced and rebuilt 3 times. Of the original 40 Marines he had trained with, only 6 remained. He was a sergeant now, not because of any promotion ceremony, but because everyone above him had died. He led his new unit with the quiet competence of someone who had seen too much death. At the Titan station, his unit held a critical fuel depot for 6 days against constant swarm attacks. They ran out of ammunition on day 4 and fought with whatever they could find. Plasma torches, improvised explosives. In one case, Do-hyun threw a swarm drone off a catwalk using nothing but his hands in desperation. When relief finally arrived, his unit was down to 12 people, all wounded, all exhausted. The 6-day stand became famous. People across human space talked about the Marines who refused to give up. Do-hyun didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired. On the Indomitable, Lieutenant Sung worked in intelligence, monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Most of it was useless chatter. But 3 weeks after New Horizon, he noticed something strange. There were unauthorized transmissions coming from Valkyrie space. Someone was broadcasting on encrypted channels, and they were talking about humanity. He brought it to Admiral Jiwon's attention. "Admiral, I think there's a faction within the Valkyrie military that disagrees with their government's decision to retreat." Jiwon studied the data. "Can you decode the transmissions?" "Working on it. But the amount of chatter is increasing. Whatever's happening, it's getting bigger." Specialist Nari worked with Sung in the communications department. She had a gift for languages and had learned several alien dialects during her time with the fleet. When Sung brought her the Valkyrie transmissions, she worked for 72 hours straight to crack them. What she found changed everything. "Admiral, you need to hear this." Nari played the decoded transmission. It was a Valkyrie military officer, and he was angry. "Our ancestors were warriors. We faced extinction twice and fought our way to survival. And now our government wants us to run? To abandon allies who have the courage we've lost? I will not do it. I will not watch humanity die alone while we hide in the core systems like cowards." The transmission continued. It was a call to action, asking other Valkyrie warriors to join him, to go to human space and fight alongside humanity. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of Valkyrie were organizing to defy their own government. Jiwon sat back in her chair, stunned. How many? At least a full battle fleet. Maybe more. "Admiral, they're inspired by us, by what we're doing." It wasn't just the Valkyrie. Sung's monitoring picked up similar transmissions from other species. The Talveri, the Morphians, even some of the smaller civilizations. Young aliens who had watched humanity's stand and decided they wanted to be part of it. "We're changing minds across the galaxy," Sung reported. "The older generations still want to retreat, but the younger ones are pushing back. Some are sending supplies. Some are preparing to send ships." Admiral Jiwon called a meeting with her senior staff. Captain Minho, Dr. Yuna, Commander Hyun-woo, who had returned from diplomatic duties, and Engineer Eunji all gathered in the conference room. "We're not alone anymore," Jiwon said. "Or we won't be soon. Several alien species are preparing to join the fight." Hyun-woo shook his head in wonder. "When I left the Galactic Council, I thought we'd never see help from anyone. What changed?" "We changed them," Dr. Yuna said softly. "We showed them that standing and fighting was possible. That it was worth it." Engineer Eunji had news of her own. "I've completed the Nova Cannon upgrades. The new version is twice as powerful and recharges 50% faster. But there's something else. I've been working on a theoretical weapon, something bigger." She brought up a holographic display. "If we can generate a sustained fusion reaction at a specific frequency, we can create a wave that disrupts the swarm's biological functions. It would affect every swarm ship within a light-minute radius." "What's the catch?" Minho asked. "The power requirements are enormous. We'd need to build a dedicated station just to house the weapon. And it takes 6 hours to charge for a single shot. But if it works, it could destroy an entire swarm fleet at once. How long to build it? 4 months. Maybe 5, Jiwon considered. The swarm kept coming. They had destroyed 2 more colonies despite humanity's best efforts. The fleet was worn down to barely 100 operational ships. They needed something to change the equation. Do it. Build your weapon. 3 days later, Ambassador Kyung returned to Earth. He had been traveling among the alien species, quietly meeting with dissidents and reformers. He arrived on Earth with representatives from 3 species. The Talveri offered their advanced shield technology, which could double a ship's defensive capability. The Morphians provided detailed intelligence on swarm movement patterns gathered from their long-range sensor networks. The Keshari, a species of natural healers, sent medical teams and supplies. It wasn't much compared to the full military might of those civilizations, but it was something. It was hope. Admiral Jiwon met with the alien representatives personally. The Talveri ambassador looked embarrassed. We cannot send our military openly. Our government forbids it. But we can send supplies. We can send technology. We can help in ways that don't require official authorization. Why risk it? Jiwon asked. Because you're right. The swarm won't stop. If humanity falls, we'll be next. Better to fight now, together, than to die alone later. We haven't together, the Morphian representative was more direct. My people have survived for 10,000 years by being cautious, by avoiding risks. But caution has made us weak. You humans remind us of what we used to be. Warriors, explorers, risk-takers. We want to help you preserve that spirit before it's lost from the galaxy forever. The aid started flowing in. Talveri shield generators were installed on human ships, making them significantly more durable. Morphian intelligence allowed Admiral Jiwon to predict swarm movements and position her forces more effectively. Keshari medical technology saved thousands of lives that would have been lost to combat injuries. And then, 3 months after New Horizon, something incredible happened. The sensors picked up a massive energy signature approaching human space. It was a fleet. A huge fleet. Admiral Jiwon prepared for another swarm attack, until the identification codes came through. Valkyrie. But not swarm. Valkyrie warships. The communication came in on open channels. Human vessels. This is Fleet Commander Drax of the Valkyrie Warrior Brotherhood. We come to fight alongside you. Our government ordered us to retreat. We have chosen to disobey. Today, we stand with humanity. The Valkyrie fleet was 200 ships strong. They were better armed and better armored than any human vessel. They arrived in formation, proud and ready for battle. On the Indomitable, the entire bridge crew stood in stunned silence. Captain Minho found his voice first. Admiral. They actually came. Jiwon felt something she hadn't felt in months. Real hope. Not the desperate hope of someone with no other choice, but genuine hope based on actual strength. Open a channel. All frequencies. Channel open, Admiral. Fleet Commander Drax. This is Admiral Jiwon of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Welcome. We're honored to fight beside you. Drax's voice came back strong. The honor is ours, Admiral. Your courage shamed us into remembering our own. Where is the enemy? Sids. Was. Jiwon smiled. A real smile. Everywhere. But we'll show you where to start. Over the next week, more ships arrived. Not full fleets, but small groups. A squadron of Talveri cruisers. 3 Morphian research vessels, retrofitted for combat. A dozen ships from smaller species that humanity barely knew. They all came for the same reason. They had watched humanity fight alone. They had seen the 6-day stand. They had heard about New Horizon. and they had decided that hiding in fear was worse than dying with honor. Dr. Yuna worked with scientists from 5 different species to improve the coordination node targeting. Engineer Unji collaborated with Talveri engineers to enhance the Nova cannons. Captain Minho taught Velkari warriors the guerrilla tactics that had kept humanity alive. The alliance was growing. And for the first time since the war began, the swarm wasn't the only one, with overwhelming numbers. Lieutenant Seung continued monitoring communications. What he found made him smile. "Admiral, you should hear this. It's a transmission from the Galactic Council." The transmission was from the Morphean Council leader. Her voice was quiet, almost ashamed. "To Admiral Ji-wan and the human fleet, we were wrong. We should never have abandoned you. The Council is in chaos. Half the species want to join your fight. The other half want to maintain the retreat. We may be witnessing the end of the Galactic Council as we know it. But whatever happens, know this. You have changed the galaxy. You have reminded us all what courage looks like. If humanity survives this war, you will do so as the greatest warriors the galaxy has ever known." Admiral Ji-wan didn't respond to the transmission. She didn't need to. The Alliance spoke for itself. Ships from 9 different species now fought under human tactical command. They had won 4 battles in the last month. The swarm was still coming, but they weren't advancing as fast anymore. And Engineer Yunji's superweapon was nearly complete. The wave generator, they called it. It was being built in secret at a hidden location, powered by 6 fusion reactors working in concert. "How much longer?" Ji-wan asked during Unji's latest update. 2 weeks to completion. Then we need to test it. Test it on what? On the swarm. In combat. It's the only way to know if it works. Ji-wan nodded slowly. 2 weeks. Then they would have a weapon that could turn the tide completely. But first, they had to survive 2 more weeks. She looked out at the fleet gathered around Earth. Human and alien ships, flying together, fighting together, bleeding together. It was beautiful in a way she had never expected. "All ships," she broadcast. "The enemy is regrouping for another major assault. Intelligence suggests they're massing near the old Cortesh homeworld. We're going to meet them there. We're going to hit them with everything we have, and we're going to show the swarm what happens when the galaxy stands united. Prepare to jump in 6 hours," the fleet acknowledged. Human, Valkyrie, Talveri, and others. All ready. All willing. The war wasn't over. But for the first time, humanity wasn't fighting alone. Dr. Yuna's discovery came at 3 in the morning. She had been analyzing swarm communication patterns for 6 months, looking for the source of their hive coordination. And finally, she found it. Deep in the data, hidden in the quantum fluctuations that the swarm used to communicate, there was a central signal, a pulse that came from somewhere far away, coordinating every swarm ship in the galaxy. She ran to Admiral Ji-wan's quarters and woke her up. "Admiral, I found it. The Void Nexus. The central hive mind that controls all of them." Ji-wan was awake instantly. "Where?" "Deep space. Beyond the galactic rim. It's enormous. Bigger than a moon. And it's ancient. This thing has been sleeping out there for millions of years, sending out the swarm whenever it wakes up. Can we destroy it? If we can get there. And if we can survive long enough to place charges inside it. But Admiral, if we destroy the Nexus, the entire swarm loses coordination. Every ship they have becomes just a dumb animal. We could end this war with one strike." Ji-wan called an emergency meeting. Every senior officer, human and alien, gathered in the command center within the hour. She laid out Dr. Yuna's findings. Fleet Commander Drax spoke first. "This would require every ship we have. We would be leaving our colonies undefended." "Yes," Ji-wan agreed. "But if we succeed..." A Talveri captain raised a concern. The Nexus will be heavily defended. Thousands of swarm ships, maybe tens of thousands. The casualties would be catastrophic. Captain Minho stood up. The casualties will be catastrophic if we keep fighting this war for years. This is our chance to end it. One battle. Winner takes everything. The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. This war had already cost so much. Entire colonies lost. Millions dead. If they kept fighting the conventional way, humanity might survive, but barely. And the other species would eventually retreat again, leaving humanity alone. But if they could destroy the Nexus, Ambassador Kyung spoke up. He had been coordinating with the reformed Galactic Council, the faction that wanted to fight. I've been in contact with 4 more species. If we launch this assault, they're willing to send ships, not token forces. Full battle fleets. They're waiting for us to lead them. How many ships total? Jiwon asked. If everyone commits, approximately 1,500 warships from 11 species, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 1,500 ships. Against an unknown number of swarm defenders. To assault a target no one had ever seen. It was insane. It was their only chance. We do it, Admiral Jiwon decided. We take every ship we can gather. We fly to the Void Nexus, and we end this war. Captain Minho, begin tactical planning. Engineer Yoonji. Is the wave generator ready? Engineer. Yoonji nodded. The prototype is complete. But Admiral, we can only fire it once. After that, it needs 12 hours to recharge. One shot is all we'll get anyway. Load it onto the Indomitable. Dr. Yuna, I need detailed intelligence on the Nexus. Everything you can find. Commander Hyunwoo, coordinate with the other species. I want every ship in position within 2 weeks. The room erupted into activity. This was it. Sergeant Do Hyun gathered his Marines. His unit had grown again, filled with replacements who looked too young and too scared. He knew that look. He had worn it himself once. Listen up. We're going on a mission. It's going to be bad. Worse than anything we've done before. We're going to board the Void Nexus itself and plant charges in its core. One of the new Marines raised his hand. Sergeant, what's our expected casualty rate? About 90%. Maybe higher. The room went quiet. Do-hyun continued, but if we succeed, we save the galaxy. Every human world. Every alien species. Everyone. So yeah, most of us won't make it home, but the ones who do get to live in a galaxy without the swarm. That's worth it to me. Anyone who disagrees can transfer out. No shame in it. No one transferred. They were all too young, too brave, or too stupid to run. Maybe all 3. Do-hyun felt proud and sad at the same time. Major Salmon had a new carrier, the Relentless. It wasn't as good as her old ship, but it would do. She briefed her squadron on their role in the assault. We're going to be the tip of the spear. Our job is to clear a path through the swarm defenses so the capital ships can get close enough to use the wave generator. It's going to be a meat grinder. I won't lie to you. We'll lose fighters. We'll lose people. But we're going to do our job anyway, because that's what we signed up for. Her pilots were a mix of human and Valkyrie now. They had learned to work together, had bled together. One of the Valkyrie pilots spoke up. Major, it has been an honor to fly with humans. Your species fights with a courage we thought we had lost. Thank you for reminding us who we used to be. Salmon felt her throat tighten. The honor is ours. Now let's go show the swarm what we're made of. The fleet assembled over Earth. 1,500 ships from 11 species. The largest armada in history. Admiral Jiwon stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at the tactical display. Every dot represented a ship, a crew, hundreds or thousands of people willing to die for this chance. Captain Minho approached. "Admiral, all ships report ready. We can jump on your command. How are you feeling, Captain?" Terrified, excited, proud, all at once. Jiwan smiled. "Good. That means you're paying attention. Minho, it's been an honor serving with you." "The honor is mine, Admiral. Shall we save the galaxy?" "I think we shall." Admiral Jiwan opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Jiwan. Today we end a war that should never have started. Today we face an enemy that has destroyed countless civilizations. Today we show the swarm and the galaxy what happens when free peoples stand united. We are human, Valkyrie, Talveri, Morphean, and more. We are different species, different worlds, different cultures. But today, we are one fleet, one force, one unstoppable tide. For our homes, for our families, for every world that ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of peace. All ships, jump to the void nexus, and may whatever gods we pray to be with us all." The fleet jumped as one. The transition to faster-than-light travel was instantaneous and disorienting. When they emerged, they found hell waiting for them. The void nexus was impossibly huge. It filled the view screens, a moon-sized mass of organic technology that pulsed with sickly light, and surrounding it were swarm ships, not thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. They filled space like a cloud of locusts. "Oh my God," Captain Minho whispered. Admiral Jiwan felt her blood run cold. They had expected heavy defenses. But this was beyond anything they had imagined. "All ships, engage. Do not stop. Do not retreat. We fight until we win or we die trying." The Allied fleet charged forward into impossible odds. The battle began with a fury that defied description. Major Salmon's fighters screamed ahead of the main fleet, engaging the outer swarm ships. Her squadron was taking fire from every direction. She shot down one swarm fighter, then another, then lost count. Her wingman exploded beside her. She kept flying. "Gold Squadron, clear the left flank. We need to open that path." The fighters dove and weaved and died, but they cleared the path. The capital ships pushed forward, their new Talveri shields absorbing tremendous damage. The Nova cannons fired again and again, each shot destroying a swarm hive ship. But there were so many more. Admiral Jiwan watched her fleet being torn apart. They had lost 200 ships in the first hour, but they were getting closer to the Nexus. "Engineer Unji, how long until the wave generator is in range?" 30 minutes at current speed." "We might not have 30 minutes. Then we better make sure we do." Sergeant Do Hyun's transport launched with 50 other assault ships. Their job was to get Marines onto the Nexus surface, while the fleet kept the swarm busy. It was going to be close. They flew through a hurricane of enemy fire. Transports exploded around them. Do Hyun gripped his rifle and prayed to whoever was listening. The transport slammed into the Nexus surface and burned through. They were in. The interior of the Nexus was like a nightmare made real. Massive chambers pulsed with organic machinery. The air was toxic. And everywhere, swarm drones waited. Do Hyun's unit pushed forward, fighting for every meter. Other Marine units did the same, converging on the core from multiple directions. The casualties were horrific. Do Hyun watched people he had trained with, fought beside, shared meals with, die one after another. But they kept moving, because that's what humans did. They kept moving forward, even when everything said to stop. In space, the fleet had lost over 600 ships. Major Salmon's carrier took a hit that crippled its engines. She launched every remaining fighter, including her own, then ordered the crew to evacuate. The carrier would drift, but her fighters would keep fighting. "Admiral, the wave generator is in range," Yunji reported. "Fire it." The wave generator charged, drawing power from every reactor on the Indomitable. The ship's lights dimmed. The shields dropped. They were completely vulnerable. But the weapon was ready. A pulse of energy erupted from the Indomitable and spread outward at the speed of light. It washed over the swarm ships like an invisible wave, and everywhere it touched, swarm ships went dark. They stopped moving, stopped fighting, stopped living. The biological components of their ships simply shut down. Hundreds of thousands of swarm ships died in an instant, but the Nexus still lived. And the remaining swarm ships, the ones outside the weapon's range, kept fighting with renewed fury. "We need to finish this," Admiral G1 said. "All remaining ships, concentrate fire on the Nexus. Burn through that thing's armor. Make a hole for the Marines." The fleet, now down to less than 800 ships, focused everything on one spot. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds, everything they had. The Nexus armor cracked, then broke. Inside, Sergeant Do-hyun's unit reached the core. It was a massive chamber, filled with pulsing organs and neural tissue. This was the heart of the swarm, the central intelligence that controlled everything. Corporal Junho, who had survived every battle until now, planted the charges personally. Charges set. 30 seconds. "Everyone out," Do-hyun ordered. They ran. But the swarm drones were everywhere, and 30 seconds wasn't enough time. Junho looked at Do-hyun. "Go. I'll make sure these charges detonate." "No. We go together. One. 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 Someone needs to stay. You have a family." "I don't. Go." "That's an order, Sergeant." Do-hyun wanted to argue, but there was no time. He grabbed his remaining Marines and ran. Behind him, Junho stood alone in the chamber, rifle ready, waiting for the end. The charges exploded with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The core of the Nexus ruptured. The entire structure began to collapse in on itself. Do-hyun's transport barely escaped as the Nexus tore itself apart. Massive chunks of organic matter exploded outward. The structure, millions of years old, died in minutes. And across the galaxy, every swarm ship stopped moving. The hive mind was gone. The coordination was gone. The ships drifted. Lifeless. No more dangerous than asteroids. The war was over. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Minho confirmed it. "Admiral, all swarm ships have gone inactive. Long-range sensors confirm the same thing across every sector. They're all dead." Admiral G1 sat down slowly. They had done it. At a cost she could barely comprehend. They had actually done it. "Get me casualty reports. And get me a count of survivors." The numbers were brutal. They had lost over 1,000 ships, millions of crew across all species. Entire units wiped out. Major Salmon had survived. But only just. Sergeant Do-hyun had made it out, but 40 Marines from his unit, including Corporal Junho, had not. But they had won. Against impossible odds, against an enemy that had destroyed civilizations for millions of years, they had won. The surviving ships limped back to Earth over the following weeks. When they arrived, they found something unexpected. Ships from every species in the galaxy were waiting. The ones who had been too afraid to fight, who had retreated to the core systems, they had all come to Earth. The Galactic Council met again, but this time it was different. This time, humanity didn't stand alone. Ambassador Taeyang addressed the council. "We didn't fight because we thought we could win. We fought because surrender was never an option. Many of you thought that was foolishness. Maybe it was, but it was also human. And somehow, that foolishness saved the galaxy. We hope you learned something from watching us nearly die for a cause we believed in. We hope you learned that sometimes you have to stand and fight, even when the odds say you can't win. Because sometimes, Just sometimes, you do win. The council voted to form a new alliance, with humanity at its heart. Not because humans were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because they had shown courage when everyone else had shown fear. 10 years later, the galaxy was at peace. The void swarm was extinct. Every sector had been cleared. Humanity had rebuilt its colonies, stronger than before. A memorial stood on New Horizon, where the first battle had been fought. It listed every name, human and alien, soldier and civilian. Everyone who had died in the war. There were millions of names, carved in stone that would last forever. Sergeant Do Hyun, now a retired colonel, visited the memorial with his children. He found Corporal Junho's name and placed flowers beneath it. His daughter asked him what the war had been like. It was terrible, he told her honestly. People died, good people, friends. But we did what we had to do. And because of that, you get to grow up in a galaxy without the swarm. That's what they died for. That's what we all fought for. His daughter looked up at the endless list of names. Were they heroes? Do Hyun thought about that. About Junho staying behind to ensure the charges detonated. About Major Salmon flying into impossible odds. About Admiral Jiwon making decisions that cost thousands of lives but saved billions. About every person who stood up when they could have run away. Yes, he said finally. They were heroes. Every single one of them. Above them, the sky was full of ships. Human and Valkyrie and Talveri and dozens of other species, all flying together, training together, living together. The galaxy had been changed forever by what humanity had done, not by human strength, but by human courage. They had stood alone when no one else would stand. And by standing, they had taught the galaxy how to be brave again. The war was over. The peace had begun. And somewhere in the stars, humanity's example continued to inspire those who had forgotten what it meant to fight for something worth fighting for.